y'all. Welcome to another episode where we interview somebody super cool in the horror community. And today I'm here with Christopher. Hey, Christopher.
Hey, Lexi, how you doing? I
I'm
feel
good.
like I feel like I should. I'm one of those people. I don't know what the word is for it. And I know there is a word. Who, when I hear somebody speaking in a specific accent, I sometimes accidentally begin to mimic the cadence, the rhythm of their accent. My daughter yells at me for it all the time. So if I start to sound like you, that's why.
No, totally understand. I talk to people all day long in my regular job. So sometimes I'll start getting excited and then they start getting, it's contagious sometimes. So totally. But anyway, totally glad you're here. Let's see. I want to talk to you about some of your books and stuff. I know you have so many different kinds. Like you have thriller, you have horror, you even have, I don't want to say Jaws type books, but the ones about the sharks. You
Yes.
have so many different things. So kind of tell me about how you wrote all those different things. How do you get there?
Well, I mean, so interestingly enough, I've been doing this long enough. My first novel came out in 1994, so 31 years. And I'm 58. I just turned 58, and um, my career started when horror was dying. And so, even though in my heart, I always say the horror people are my people. Horror is where my heart is. I read a lot of crime fiction. I love all kinds of books. I read some westerns. I read all kinds of stuff, and I watch all kinds of things. But horror has always been the nearest and dearest to my heart, and I consider myself a horror writer. But since when I started out, horror was dying, and I also like to be versatile. Anything that I would come up with, what I thought was cool, I tried to sell it. Um, and so I did all kinds of things. I did young adult horror. I did young adult mystery. I've done sort of dark fantasy novels. I've done media tie-in. Um, and it really is just a matter of, when I sold my first novel, which was at the end of 1992, when I made the deal for that book, I quit my job. Um, and because I was very young, I didn't have a mortgage, we didn't have kids, and I thought, okay, if I'm going to try to
Now's
make
the
a go of
time.
it. So it's been, you know, since 1992. So we're almost to the month. It's been 33 years since I quit my job. And during that time, it's just been about taking care of my family, taking care of our needs, and having a professional career, right? Um, and so when you say you've written all kinds of things, that's the reason, right? But of all the things I've ever done, there are only a couple I wish I hadn't. So that's a pretty good track record.
That is a pretty good track record. And usually when you see somebody who has all these different kind of things, you're like, they can't be good at all of them. But honestly, it feels like every time in my life that I've turned around, oh, there's a Christopher Golden book in that area. I got to pick it up. And then it's good. It's every time. Or at least I think
Well,
it.
I hope so. I think I can promise you that there are at least a couple that are not good. Um, I won't air my own dirty laundry, but there definitely are a couple that are not, that I don't think are good. That said, I'd like to think that they do the job where they're necessary. Like I did write under a pseudonym these three shark thrillers, um, and the first one, Shark Island, they were written as Chris Jameson. My father's name was James, was his first name, so Chris James' son. And I think that the first one, Shark Island, is actually really good. If I do say so myself, I love that book. The other two, because they insisted that I had to come up with that they couldn't be sequels, so I had to come up with different reasons in each book because sharks
Oh,
don't
yeah.
typically actually eat people. So I had to invent different reasons for each of those books for the sharks to actually eat people,
Oh, goodness.
which was really dumb. It was a very difficult thing for them to insist on, but it meant that the second and third books I don't think were nearly as good. But I still really enjoyed writing them. So
I mean, that was the point, though. You did enjoy writing them, and they
yes,
were fun. The first one was my favorite, though. I do have to say so
yeah.
myself. But just so cool. And recently, I read The Nightbirds, which was also amazing. And the cover art on this, I'm telling you, every time I see this posted, it just glows by itself. First off,
Thank you. Yeah.
but it was such a good book. I mean, all of your books that I've read here lately have been super good. I'm listening to All Hollow right now from my library. Super good. But Nightbirds was just, as soon as I started reading it, I got sucked into it. So, kind of tell me where you came up with the idea for this in particular.
So the Nightbirds, first of all, I should say the cover artist is a guy named Jonathan Bush, and he has done a bunch of my novels in the last few years, starting with Road of Bones, All Hallows, The House of Last Resort, The Nightbirds, and the one I've got coming out next year, which I can't talk about yet. The Nightbirds really came about from two things. One was I had this idea, and this is not the plot of the book, although it's very similar. It's like the mirror universe version. But I had this idea, sort of, I was playing with for a long time about two women who were members of a coven of witches, one of whom had a baby, and they fell in love, and they ran away from the coven, and the coven sort of went after them and the baby.
Mhm.
And that happens in the book, but not in the same way at all. Um, and then the other idea that sort of was also, I have this sort of pile of things that I've printed up over the years of things that are interesting to me that might show up someday. And there's actually a ship in Australia, off the coast of Australia, that's very similar to the ship in this. I moved it to Galveston, Texas for the purposes of the Nightbirds. And basically, it's a freighter from around 125 years ago or thereabouts that sort of is halfway sunken in a hurricane, and over the years, a mangrove forest has grown up through the bottom of this half-sunken freighter, this sort of rusted out half-sunken freighter. And I just thought that was the perfect setting for the story I wanted to tell. Um, and then also, the main characters actually, um, the story of the two women running from the coven is part of the story, but also there's a story of this guy Book and his team who do research on the ship, um, and his ex-girlfriend, and the reason that they, even though they love each other, that they couldn't stay together. And it all ties into this baby and some pretty crazy witchcraft folklore stuff that I really loved. So many times when I do books, all through my career, but way more so now, I just have fun with inventing folklore that, if I did it right, people think is real, or that I got it somewhere. And everybody thinks that the folklore in this book must be inspired by or taken from Iceland, which I talk about in this, but in fact it's not.
I am definitely a sucker. Whenever I see
No, I'm
like
not
a
a sucker.
well crafted one, I'm like, okay, I gotta look this up because it's cool. And then I find out this is not real. And then I'm like, this was so good though. You created this whole thing yourself and you had me sucked in thinking it was real.
Yeah.
Or, well, an idea.
But that's fun though, I mean, it's a really, I think also because what has always fascinated me, go back to the very beginning of my career, and at the comics that I've written and the novels I've written, what has always fascinated me is the germ of legends, because every legend, every bit of folklore, starts somewhere, you know. So there's something people were afraid of that prompted a myth to begin, right?
Trying
And
to explain it.
so yeah. So anyway, I'm always fascinated by that.
That's a good little piece of information too. I like that. And I'm sure it really helps in your books when you're trying to build something or build your own because you really pulled it off in this,
Thank
honestly.
you.
And what I loved about it is, of course, I love the cover as soon as I've seen it. But like this book, when you're reading it and all the magic and stuff, it's like the book cover itself is almost screaming, "Hey, there is magic in here." I don't know. You just such a good matchup.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
No, Jonathan does a great job. I do think the green does something, you know.
Does
I
it
don't know.
just
I've never spoken to him other than some messages. And now that I think of it, I'm just thinking of this. I wonder if that's his signal that there are witches in the book because the green is sort of like wicked.
Ooh, that would
I just,
make sense. That
yeah, I
does make
wonder. I wonder if that's a nod. I'll have to email him and ask him.
yes, absolutely, because we need to know now. But just this book. Are you a planner or do you just kind of wing it? I know you said you have a pile of ideas of things that interest you, of course, that probably spark you, but how do you come up with your ideas for the books
I I
themselves?
am very much a pantser. And what happens, because the thing is, I feel like if I don't know the ending, there's no way you're going to see it coming. Um, and I think that there's a lot of discovery that makes my books way more entertaining for me, and hopefully that means more entertaining for the reader as well. So the process of discovering, these moments of epiphany when I go, oh, now I understand. Now I know what I can use this thing for that I put in chapter 3 that I had no idea that was going to turn out to be really important later. Um, so essentially, you know, I know only as much as I needed to know to convince my editor to that this was the next book I should write.
Ooh, that's actually kind of fun to think about it because you kind of get the excitement of you writing it and then we're reading it and discovering along with you. It's a whole new journey kind of situation. I
Yeah.
like
Well, you're seeing the journey I took, you know.
absolutely. Absolutely. You do a great job with that. What do you think if you had to pick? I know you said you had a couple of books that weren't your favorite, but of all the books, because you have wrote so many things, what do you think your top three favorites would be if you had to pick?
I mean, it's so hard. I think that we're saying favorite, not best, right?
Favorite, best, and favorite are totally different to me. This is
That's a very
your
different thing.
favorite. Yes.
Well, I'm glad you said 3 because the most recent one is the one that you like the best or that you
Of
is a
course.
favorite because you're so close to it. Um, I think for me, I look at the ones that were pivotal, where I felt like I leveled up or things changed for me
Ooh.
or what I was doing with my career. So I wrote a novel called Strangewood many years ago. I wouldn't want to go back and read it because I'd be afraid. It's still in print; people still read it and people still enjoy it. But I would be afraid to read it because I'd be like, no, I need to rewrite it.
You just want to have the memory of how much you loved it then.
Yeah, and the thing about it is that I feel like Strangewood is the book with which I matured. Because I started very young. I was lucky in some way, in many ways, but I was also essentially I was learning on the job, you know, and so Strangewood was the first real turning point for me. It was the one where I sort of grew up, I think, um, and then um, honestly, like Ararat in a big way, I think that was also kind of a turning. It's Snowblind before that was a big turning point because it was my first book with St. Martin's, my first solo novel with St. Martin's with my editor now, and I've been working with him since 2012 or 13. Um, and then I know it's more than 3, but and Road of Bones, Road of
Ooh,
Bones,
that is such a good one too.
and Road of Bones is also a book where I felt like I both leveled up and matured a little bit because it was the ending of that book, not spoiling anything, but the ending of that book I would never have written in years prior to that because I wouldn't have
Ooh.
had the confidence or the faith in myself um you'd have to read it, but to to do something that I felt had a lot of nuance.
I
Um,
I've read it. I understand what you're saying without trying to spoil it.
yeah,
So hopefully everybody else does as well. But if you
yeah,
haven't read it, go read it and then watch this interview.
yeah. So that's the thing. I feel like the ones that are my favorites are the ones that I where I feel like I got better at my job. You know.
That's that is good picks to be your favorite too, because that's like a good reason. How else are you going to pick your favorites of your own work? Of course. Um, Next fun question. You have been writing for a long time. Who do you think were your inspiration? And it doesn't have to be authors, it could be directors. Just, you looked at them and you thought, this is what I want to do. I want to start writing. And I know you said you started when horror was dying, so that had to be hard too.
Well, I mean, I didn't know at the time that I was writing, right? But look, it's funny because I mean, I always say, I mean, it's such a a trite answer, but it's cliche because it's so common. Obviously, Stephen King. Again, I bought The Stand when I was probably 12 or 13. So that would have been in like 79 or 80. I was born in 67. So, my influences were both Stephen King novels hugely, but also comics, Tomb of Dracula comics that Marvel published, and I'm talking about when I was really young. Um, uh, Kolchak the Night Stalker in reruns on television, hugely influential for me. And like I said, Marvel's Tomb of Dracula comics. Old reruns of The Twilight Zone when it was Rod Serling, hugely influential for me. Again, like those things were old when I was young, so they were already like from the past at that point. But I loved them, and then as I got older, all different kinds of authors had a big influence on me and filmmakers. But authors, I mean, everybody from S.E. Hinton with The Outsiders to a woman named Dorothy Hosford who wrote a young adult retelling of the Norse myths called Thunder of the Gods, which I read about 15 times in fifth, sixth, and seventh grade. Um, and so many. Jack London, Call of the Wild, White Fangs. People who read my books probably can now see that in retrospect. That influence.
Absolutely not shocked now.
Yes, and so all of that stuff is at the base, the sort of foundation. But we could go through like, I mean, the list is. I've seen thousands of films, and I watch movies constantly. And so yeah, but and book wise, I'm still influenced. I turn around and read Ramsey Campbell's novel The Grin of the Dark. Scared me. I don't write anything like Ramsey. His style and my style it couldn't be further from each other, but it doesn't matter. You still pick up influence of like that was chilling, and how did he do that, and what's the you know so yeah, there are just so many. You look around. I still read things. I recently read Katrina Ward's Looking Glass Sound, one of the best books I've read in the last 10 years. Loved it, loved it, loved it. Um, so it's nonstop. It's just like the things that you read that inspire you. You just keep going.
Yep, you got to keep taking it in to put some good stuff out, or you're just
Yep.
going to go stale. So definitely amazing there. Um, Movies. Tell me about some of your favorite horror movies. What do you like? Are you a creature feature? Do you like slasher, murder, like
So
squad?
I'm not a big slasher fan unless it's something really good, or really bad, like really bad. Um, So like a couple of years ago, my son Dan and I watched all the Friday the 13th movies from start to finish, and some of them are so bad they're terrible, and some of them are so bad they're wonderful.
Yes.
Um, but I'm not a big slasher fan, whether in books or in film or television. I usually more appreciate supernatural stuff, and movie wise, I go back to silent um, films. I typically appreciate them more once people start talking, but there are some silent films that I think are phenomenal. Um, but I like all kinds of movies, not just horror. But as far as horror films are concerned, yeah, I mean, I watch so many movies from the 30s and 40s. Like, uh, I love them so much. But in any case, um, The Autopsy of Jane Doe. I think The Descent is probably the best horror movie of the 21st century so far. I love The Autopsy of Jane Doe. I just recently made a top 25 of the 21st century so far, and those two were at the top of the list. But we're in such an. I just saw Weapons the other night. What a great film! Um,
I'm not usually super excited for movies. I mean, I like movies, but like I saw every time the commercial or trailer comes on for that one, I just stop what I'm doing and watch it. I'm like, whoever did this trailer knows exactly what they're doing. I need
yeah.
to know what is going on. And
But did you watch Sinners though?
not yet, but it's also on my list too. I'm
Sinners
so
is
behind
amazing.
on movies.
Well, I will tell you this: my two favorite films of all time were released on the same day.
Okay, interesting.
Blade Runner and John Carpenter's The Thing.
Ooh, those are two very good ones that I have seen. I'm not that behind.
Yep. Yep.
They're such good ones. Picking good movies or favorite movies is so hard. It's like picking books, which is
But you'll
awesome.
also like Jaws, one of the greatest movies of all time. Two favorite animated movies of all time: The Iron Giant
Oh,
and Spirited Away.
those are good ones, though. Those are such good ones. Caleb's putting together a whole thing with movies and everything, and I love it for us and for him. But he's been doing the movie list. We've seen so many people talking about movies that I've forgotten for a million years, and I'm loving it. We got to do some more movie stuff. But let's see. What else do I need to ask? I just totally got off my train of thought, and I don't usually do that.
That's okay.
Okay, let's talk about the anthology that you're a part of that's coming up. What can you tell us? I'm so excited about this that I just try not to think about it 9 times out of 10.
Hang on a second. Ta-da!
How did you pick that up with one hand? It weighs like 800 pounds.
The End of the World as We Know It. New Tales of Stephen King's The Stand. Brian Keene and I had edited an anthology of short stories inspired by Joe Lansdale's novel, The Drive-In, which is interesting to me. The Drive-In is not a book that everybody has read, unlike The Stand. But it's a book that horror people who have read The Drive-In, particularly if they read it at a certain age, it has an impact on you. It had an impact on you. And we knew that it was a really influential book. And it was for both Brian and myself. Brian and I are the same age, within like 2 months of each other. And so we had done this book and loved it. And I had said before that book that I was done editing anthologies, because I've done 15 or 20 of them at this point, which is not Ellen Datlow numbers, but it's a lot of anthologies.
It is.
And so I was sort of done. And then we did the Drive-In one, and I was done again. And then one day, I don't know, I was just thinking, I don't know why it came to me, but I thought, oh my God, it would be the greatest thing on earth if we could do this. I know that Stephen King will say no. He'll never let us do it. But I texted Brian and I said, or maybe I called him. I think I called him and I said, listen, he'll never say yes to this, but we should ask Steve if he would agree to let us do this anthology. And Brian's like, yeah, definitely ask him. So I emailed him and explained, Brian and I have in common that The Stand is our favorite novel of all time. It's been my favorite novel since I read it when I was 12 or 13. Same with Brian. And so I sent him an email. And his only response, which came, some hours later, but the same day, his response was, do it. And I was like, holy shit, I can't believe he just said to go ahead and do this thing. And he was amazing. He was so supportive and wonderful, and it was such a surprise to be able to do it and work to get it together that we didn't think too much about the audacity it took, but also the responsibility we had taken on until I hit send when I sent him the manuscript.
Oh.
And I sent him the manuscript, and as soon as I sent it, I was like, "Wait, what if he hates it? What if he thinks the stories suck? What if he thinks we've done a bad job of like, what if he thinks
Basically
this thing
his
we did to
kid.
honor him is not an honor at
Yeah.
all?" So we were very relieved that within a certain, within not too many days, we started to get sort of regular emails from him as he read, a few stories at a time
I
with his
can't even
comment.
imagine that feeling of getting those emails as he's reading it. Oh my god.
Yeah. No, it was great. And it was great. Just, and, I mean, we know which stories are his favorite, but we're not going to tell.
Of course, never.
But it was so great to have um, to have this response from him as he was reading through, and he would send us emails saying, "Oh, this story is amazing," and I loved this, and um, he was just really, really great. And then uh, I got a text from Joe Hill one day um, saying, "By the way, my dad is reading that." Joe and I have known each other for a long time. He said, "My dad is reading that anthology you guys put together, and he loves it." And I was like, "Oh, so he's not just being polite either. He's mentioned to Joe that he's loving it, so that's
He's
good."
actually said out loud that I like it. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So it's really been, I mean, it means the world to me and to Brian, and really to all the contributors in the book as well. Um,
I'm telling you. So I heard whispers about the idea of this for a long time, and I was losing my mind because, of course, I'm a huge Stephen King fan. I am also a huge, huge, huge Dark Tower junkie, and like when I heard kind of about this, I'm like, this is the closest I'm ever gonna get to like journeying through different versions of the tower again, because it's basically a bunch of people that love Stephen King also writing, you know, different things from The Stand, and I'm like, oh my god. And then it got announced, and I thought I died. So
well, and the lineup is incredible. Obviously, there were people that if we could have done more stories, there were certainly people that we really would have wanted to include. Um, but really for us, it was about, representing the horror genre is so broad now, and we have a very deep bench now, which we never had before. I mean, we're in the new golden age of horror, maybe the greatest age of horror right now, and so we wanted to sort of celebrate the breadth and depth of what the genre has to offer, and I think we've done that. But it is. But by the way, though, you know that the new Talisman novel that Stephen King is
I,
writing, um, it does go into Midworld. So you
I
will
can't
get some
breathe.
more Dark Tower stuff.
It's funny because I've been a Stephen King fan since I was literally little, like scared the crap out of me movies, whole nine yards. But I didn't read The Talisman until I was much, much, much older, and I read it, and I was like, this might be the best thing I've ever read in my life. And I still think that half the time. But it actually led me to reading The Dark Tower, and then when I saw that thing about The Talisman 3, I was like, am I gonna die reading this? This is it. I can die happy now, I guess. But no, so
And I'm
excited.
really curious to know what you think of this anthology, because I think you're going to really, really have fun with it. I mean, there are
I have
some
pre-ordered
heartbreaking
for
stories. There are funny stories. There are incredibly sad stories, of course. But I don't know. I'm really proud of it.
I bet. I just can't imagine. And then you guys are doing this crazy, basically orchestrated event at the same time across everywhere.
Yeah,
I
we're
can't.
doing. We have. There are 36 authors. There are 34 stories, but two of them are collaborative. So there are 36 authors, and of those authors, 35 of them, one is unable to actually. It might be 34 now. Two of them, I think, are unable to participate, but everyone else is involved. And I'm looking at it now. Let's see. We have Houston, Brooklyn, Columbia, Pennsylvania, LA, Austin, Beverly, Massachusetts, Frederick, Maryland, Detroit, Bismarck, North Dakota, Bangor, Maine, Chicago, Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, and London. So
It's
there you
just
go.
crazy.
Yeah.
A big book with a big range.
Well, you know, from the beginning, I said to Brian, I said, look, it's got to be like Captain Tripp's, you know, spreading,
Spread.
right? The contagion of this, it's got to be everywhere. And so from the beginning, I knew we had to set up a massive same day signing event like this. And I'm just, you know, I'm, you know, it's funny. I say this all the time, and I'm a real like what's the word searching for? I guess you could say I'm a softie. That's a terrible word for it, but I really am. And um, as a kid, and this defines my personality my whole life. I just wanted everybody to, if I really liked something, I wanted everybody else to experience that thing that I liked so that they could feel what I felt, so they could be excited about it too, so they could be happy about it too. Always my whole life, which is why I'm like, you should watch this movie, you should read this book, because it made me feel this and I want you to feel it too. And I feel like this book is sort of the culmination of that part of my life, because I feel like I'm so excited for everybody to read these stories, because I know that fans at the stand, like readers, are gonna, for the most part, there'll be trolls, but there are trolls gonna troll, but for the most part, they're gonna love it, and I know that they will feel, we will be feeling this together, I guess is what I'm saying, which makes me so happy.
No, I absolutely agree. I don't write, but I do reviews quite often. And when I'm doing a review and I'm so excited about it, I'm like, I need everybody to go pick this book up immediately and go read it now. Like, we need to be able to talk about this because it is insane. So I can't imagine writing a whole book well, not writing a whole book, putting together a whole book of stories over something that I loved and then sharing it with everybody else. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, sharing it with everybody else when you already know there's this massive receptive audience for it.
It's
Um,
waiting.
you know what? Honestly, it's similar in some ways, although not this is way better, but it's similar in some ways to a couple of years ago. We don't have to go through it, but I've been involved with the Buffy the Vampire Slayer sort of franchise for like decades. And a couple of years ago, Amber Benson and I co-wrote and co-directed a 9-episode audio drama for Audible that reunited a large portion of the cast, and we did an event at New York Comic Con for it. And just seeing the response from the fans and seeing online the response from the fans, and knowing, like, I loved this thing. And I loved doing this thing, and the experience of doing it was fantastic. And it's a thing that that just made me so happy. And I knew it would make them so happy. So that's the thing. Like, it's a very rare thing to be able to do. When you're writing your own original novels, it's not the same, because you have a really sort of love-hate. I have a really sort of love-hate relationship with all of my books. And so even when people are like, "Oh my God, I loved this book," or they could say the greatest things ever about it, I'm always a little squicky. I'm always kind of uncomfortable with it. But something like this, I don't feel that way at all. I'm like, yes, you're right. It's fantastic.
No, I love that though, because that makes sense, because this is a part of something that you love so much, and it's not just you, and you're also pumping up everybody else in that book too. So I mean, it's electric.
That was a part of it too. I mean, as an editor, I definitely had at least one conversation where I said to an author, you haven't put your best foot forward here, and this is going to be read by many, many, many people. You should rethink this and rework. And the result was fantastic. So, that's something you have to think about.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Goodness. Yeah. Super excited. Which of the events are you going to be at?
So I will be on Tuesday, August 19th, Paul Tremblay and Rio Ewers and I will be at Off Cabot, which is a theater in Beverly, Massachusetts. We're going to be hosted by Copper Dog Books, which is a phenomenal indie bookstore in Beverly, Massachusetts. And then a week later, Paul and Catherine Valente and I will be at Brookline Booksmith in Brookline, Massachusetts.
Ooh, that's very cool. And definitely, I will drop links to those two places in the comments of this when it releases, so y'all can check them out as well. I love bookstores. I'm just a bookstore junkie, especially indie bookstores, small bookstores. If I find a new one, I'm like, jot that down to go check out.
I mean, honestly, and I know the best thing about indie bookstores is indie booksellers.
Yes.
You know, and you do find there are some phenomenal Barnes and Noble booksellers.
Oh, of course.
Absolutely, but not every Barnes and Noble has that bookseller, you know. But it's like the reason I love booksellers so much is because they are inherently the same kind of people who are like, I love this thing, therefore you must experience it.
In my experience, every time I find a really good like indie bookstore, it's like walking into a library with a really good librarian, and I'm just like, yes, and I love it.
Yeah, but they're all the great booksellers are people who are wired that same way, where they just need to share the thing that made them so happy.
Yeah,
that's what I love.
Absolutely, and I love that too. Bookstores make the world go round, in my opinion, and libraries. But let's see, what else I want to ask. Just lost my train of thought again. You're getting me today. So I don't have all three of these books, but I wanted to ask you about kind of your inspiration for this little series right here. I'm missing the first one. I have Bloodstained Wonderland and Bloodstained Neverland.
And the first one is Bloodstained Oz.
Yes, that one is the one I'm missing so far.
Yes.
Yeah, I saw one of my friends talking about them, and I was like, okay, I've got to figure this out. And I love Earthlings anyway, so of course, beeline straight there.
Yeah. I mean, Earthling does beautiful books. Paul Miller is great. I mean, I've been working with him for a very long time at this point. My friend Jim Moore, who I collaborated with on that book, passed away early last year, and it's not been, it's been difficult. He's one of my best friends, but many years ago, Jim and I were on an elevator at the Bram Stoker weekend in New York City. We were having a conversation, and many of my collaborative works have come from similar conversations. And I don't know how we got to it, but at some point we were talking about The Wizard of Oz and vampires. And I said something to the effect of, what would be great though is if you just reversed it, and instead of Dorothy going to Oz, like the tornado dropped all the creatures from Oz in Kansas, but they're all vampires. And we laughed about it, and we kind of looked at each other, and I was like, well, we have to write that. I think Jim said, we have to write that. I was like, you're right, we do have to write that. And that's how it started. And when we wrote the first one, we only had the barest sort of like idea of what the other two would be.
Ooh.
But we knew sort of that there would be this larger mythology, and that there would be this larger sinister plot in the background. And we just had a good time. But the second one, it was, I don't know, at least 12 years between the first one and the second one. And then only like a few years between the second and the third. And it was because we just were always so busy. Yes, but even then I was really busy, and we wanted to do it, but we just couldn't find the time. And we finally were like, look, this is ridiculous. We have to get this done. And then we have the gift of having unbelievable art on the covers and interiors from Glenn Chadbourne, who is a good friend of mine, one of the sweetest guys out there. And the covers are incredible. The cover to the third one, I think, is the best cover, but all three of them are incredible. Yeah. And I actually The original art
so
for that is hanging above my desk right now.
beautiful.
The painting.
There's just something about your books. It's not that I don't want to say they're fun because they are fun, but I feel like that maybe takes away from it. It's just they're horror, but they're always so much fun horror. Like every time I grab something of yours, I'm like, okay, this is going to be a good time regardless. I'm a huge Wizard of Oz fan. So as soon as I heard about this, I was like, yes, have to have it because that's insane.
Awesome.
But you just have so many different things. I love it.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it's funny because I'm writing my novel from January 2024, The House of Last Resort, has been optioned for film by Michael B. Jordan's company, Outlier, and I'm writing the screenplay right now, and I'm almost done. And who knows, if it'll get made? I hope it does. But the interesting thing is that you see the structure of things more when you're writing for screen. And it's just so interesting to me that so many of my books have this structure where I'm putting all the pieces in place. And then that portion of the book is always like lighting a really long fuse. And then you get about halfway through the book and the fuse gets to the explosion, and then it's just, but I think that if you've done your job, that you should be able to do that. Anyway, so yeah, I don't mind. I think fun is a great compliment.
It's funny because before I found out about this, possibly getting to be a movie, I was talking to one of my friends and I was like, I don't know why this one hasn't been made into a movie yet. And she's like, didn't you hear? And I'm like, no.
Yeah.
But no, it's just, I think it'll be a good one if it makes it, honestly.
I think so too. I really do. I'm really happy with how it's coming so far, and hopefully they will be too. Road of Bones is also supposed to be a film.
Ooh.
That's the script for that is being written by Scott Derrickson and C. Robert Cargill right now, and Derrickson is supposed to direct it. So that one I think I have a lot of confidence in, and those guys are brilliant and amazing. So I think we'll see that. But it is. I don't know. I want you to have fun. I want you to enjoy it, but I also want to hurt you. I want you to be sad, and I want you to be,
you definitely pull that off.
Yeah. I say all the time, like I just feel like, and sometimes I don't expect this, but sometimes I've made people cry, and I think telling an author that they made you cry is the nicest thing you can ever say to a writer. Because if you can make me cry with words on a page, nothing better than that.
Yes.
So I feel like, yeah, I gave advice to a writer not too long ago, and the advice basically was summed up with, make the reader care and then hurt them for it.
Yes. Like, I know I get a little bit salty when one of my favorite characters dies or something awful happens. But also, I remember after I'm done with that book, man, I really had a feeling and it was just words. You made me feel something with just words.
Right. Exactly.
So, yeah, definitely. And you are also very good at that. So, no worries with that part either.
Thank you.
Oh, goodness. Well, I don't want to keep you too much longer, and I have loved this entire conversation. So thank you so much for that.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Before I let you go or rush you off, do you want to tell us anything about any of the events you're going to be up to here lately? I know you said the one for the big release for your anthology, and there's one after that, but is there any other cool things you want to?
Well, let's see. I'm not sure when this will go up, but I am going to be at Dark Ink at Doylestown Books in Doylestown, Pennsylvania this Saturday. And then on the 19th, I'll be in Beverly, Mass. On the 26th, I'll be in Brookline, Massachusetts. I know I'm doing in early September. I'll be back I'll be at An Unlikely Story in Plainville, Massachusetts, in conversation with Eric LaRocca, celebrating the release of his new book, the first in his Burnt Sparrow trilogy.
That book.
Oh yeah,
feels, and a lot of other things.
Yes. Yeah, no, Eric, I mean, again, we could have a whole long conversation about all the different writers that are out there now doing amazing things, but Eric is that writer that I'm like, look, if this book is not for you, then it's really not for you,
Yeah.
right? I
I
mean,
had to
that's
tell somebody that the other day. I was like, you either like it or you don't. There is not a real in between.
yeah. But it's, the thing is you're always going to be going on a ride. And yeah,
I love
this it's a great book, but it's very much not for everybody.
You need to be ready. I think when I
Right.
posted my review, I was like, please read the synopsis before you decide to read
Yes.
this. It's amazing, but be prepared.
Yeah, and honestly, the other thing you can say is like try one of Eric LaRocca's books, and if it's not for you, could probably be pretty sure that none of them are going to be for you because he is brutal.
He
Um,
is, but it's
yeah,
wonderful. It's wonderfully done.
yeah. Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, so there's so many different varieties of horror out there right now. So many amazing writers in the field. Anyway, back to the so yes, I have that event with Eric. Um, And I know there are other things. Oh, and then I don't know. I'm doing a tour of the UK starting at the end of September. Tim Leben and I are going to be signing
Shut
starting
up.
September 30th. In Tim and I are doing the Titans of Terror tour. Um, we're starting in Edinburgh, Scotland, on the 30th of September, and I don't know the exact dates after that, but we're going to be signing in York uh, and in Oxford and in London and in Bristol and in Abergavenny in Wales. And then I will be signing, and I know the date for this one, October 11th in Dublin, Ireland,
That
which I know
is
is not
so
part of the UK. That's an additional event.
just extra. That's so
Yeah,
cool. It sounds like you got a really full schedule lined up, and it sounds like it's gonna be fun.
I do. I'm going to be exhausted, but it's going to be fun.
Oh goodness. Well, thank you so much, and thank you for all this fun little information. I already knew a bunch about your writing, but this gave me some tidbits and insights that I think a lot of people are going to really enjoy as well. So thank you for that.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, Lexi.